welcome to today's video. And in today's video, I'll be looking at each party's 10 target districts, or what they should be, I think at least, or not necessarily, like just at like a first glance, in 2022 in the House. Now I am just gonna have this map up, and we can go district by district. I'm gonna try to make this kind of quick. I tried a recording and it failed, and now I'm trying to get to bed fairly early tonight. So I'm going to go kind of quickly. So I'm gonna get started over here in Florida. I don't, or Florida, California. With these two congressional districts, I do not know their names. Because I am honestly not great with congressional districts. I'm gonna go zoom in over here. Like over here in this district, the 39th, it was a much smaller margin of victory, or not much smaller. I think it was actually exactly 1%. Yeah, 1% smaller. Exactly. Um, in the 39th, as opposed to over here in the 48th. But they were both narrow margin of victory for the Republicans. Um, Around LA, I think that the Democrats would need to run a fairly strong candidate for an area like LA or in the suburbs. I think that these seats will both honestly still be red in 2024 or 2022. But these are two seats that the Democrats should definitely have their eyes on. Now for the next seat, or I guess seats, or actually I'm just gonna do seat because why not? Nevada, I'm not sure which district it is. Is it the third? Third, yeah, okay. So Susie Lee, as you can see, she only won here by 3%. It's this county district right here seems to be the or Vegas seems to be concentrated into that district. Around it, this is a more suburban seeming district, and like the GOP, it's not gonna happen. But the GOP would need to run a candidate with lots of suburban appeal. I don't think it's very likely, but that is a district the Democrats didn't win it by a whole lot. It should definitely be on the GOP's radar. So the next congressional district is this district in Utah. Is it like the fourth? Is that what it is? Yeah, the fourth. Okay, so this was actually a flip by rough, or I think exactly 1%. Narrow margin of victory for the Democrats. Or for the Republicans. Looking at this, they won by less than 1,000 votes. It's incredibly close. The Democrats can definitely flip it back, I think. Looking at this has parts of Salt Lake City and its suburbs. I think that they could definitely do well here, and that it's important that they flip it back if they want to expand their majority. This is one of those seats that I would definitely, if I were a Democrat trying to expand my majority, I would definitely want to focus focus on the seat and put lots of money into it. For the GOP's next seat, let's just go with Arizona's first. Taking a look at this, Tom O'Halloran, he only won by 3.2%. This county is obviously very large, stretching all around Arizona. They would need to do better with rural voters, though. They would need to do better in this Phoenix area, within, I guess, Phoenix suburbs. To win, it's unlikely, especially knowing the Arizona GOP. But we could honestly see the seat narrow up if the GOP run a candidate with lots of rural appeal, yet lots of suburban appeal. That's why it's unlikely, but we could see it happen. For the Democrats' next target, in neighboring New Mexico, the 2nd Congressional District, looking at this, it was a flip. It was a flip by 7.4%. That's a big margin of victory. And this district is, yes, it has a lot of, or it takes up a lot of space. It has suburbs of Albuquerque, and then essentially takes up rural, rural southern New Mexico. So I do think that this district will likely still be red. But if the Democrats run a candidate with lots of appeal to rural voters and lots of appeal, obviously in Albuquerque suburbs, but lots of appeal to oil workers, not necessarily in that district. I'm not certain exactly where oil workers would be, but New Mexico, generally speaking, you need to have some appeal to oil workers if you want to win. I guess as a Democrat, the GOP won by 7%. So I would say that's a Democratic target. The Democrats should definitely be focusing on it. For the next GOP target, Minnesota's, what district is that? I'm not certain. 2nd Congressional District. As you can see, the Democrats only won here by 2.2%. It has suburbs of Minneapolis and I guess kind of rural areas. It would need to do well in the suburbs and also be able to do well with the rural farmers, I guess, which is why I mean like it's highly unlikely that they flip it because finding a Republican with that balance is difficult. Trump was amazing in rural areas, but horrendous in the suburbs. Romney would not be good at all in rural areas today, but would be really good in the suburbs. Or he's a strong suburban candidate. I guess is how I should put it. Or at least he's a Republican. So I do think that should definitely be on the Republicans' target list. Though they should be trying to win the seat. It was a narrow margin of victory for the Democrats. And they could potentially win it. For the Democrats' next target, I'm gonna go. There are 3 districts in Iowa. So I could start off with the second. So looking at this, Marionette Miller Meeks, there were like 400,000 votes in this district, and she won by 6. That's insane. There were almost 400,000 votes, and she won by 6. That is an insanely small margin of victory. I think that we could see a Democrat win here. I mean, like, given that it was that small, and Trump was an amazing candidate for a state like Iowa. Given the fact that it was that small margin of victory, even with Trump's down ballot support, I think it should be a very encouraging sign for the Democrats because Trump helped people down ballot with when he's such an amazing candidate for a state like Iowa, and you have his down ballot support, and you only win by 6 votes. When he's not there, you will likely be struggling, which is why I do think that should be a target state for the Democrats or district. Next up, over here in Iowa's third. So looking at this, I'm like, Cindy Axne, I'm never sure how to pronounce, some names, but, Cindy Axne, I'm just gonna pronounce it Axne, won by literally, like, 1.4%, so not exactly, like, nothing, but it's definitely a small margin of victory. Yes, they won't have Trump's down ballot support, but if they're looking at states or districts that they want to flip, if they want to be able to, win that majority, this needs to be close to the top of their list. This is a state that they definitely have the ability to flip. And like Brian Holder, Libertarian, won like 3.4% of the vote. And let's say the Libertarian Party, generally speaking, is more right leaning, or is definitely very right leaning, very small government. I mean, like there are lots of areas where Democrats would agree with them, like on things. I'm trying to think, less abortion regulation, less immigration regulation, less or I guess decriminalize marijuana, but I don't really see I guess libertarians having lots of liberal appeal, which is why I mean like considering the fact that if there's not a libertarian candidate that does very well, they could at the end of the day get a lot of conservative vote because that was essentially a conservative vote. With conservative vote, they practically win. And that's one encouraging sign. But also the fact that Axne won by hardly anything, not a very large margin of victory. And if the GOP run a candidate with lots and lots of rural appeal, someone similar to Trump, we could likely see the seat flip. Now for the Democrats' next target seat up here in the 1st district. Now this was a larger margin of victory, obviously, than the 2nd district. The 2nd district might have been the closest district. I would assume it is, or was in 2020. But I mean, like, looking at this, it was a flip, yes. And it was a flip by, like, 2.6%. Once again, when Trump's down ballot support isn't there, when Trump's not on the ballot, and then we wouldn't see them having his, or a lot of this down ballot support from a candidate that's so strong in the state. Trump was incredibly strong in the state. And when you only win by that much, when he's on the ballot, I don't necessarily know that it's very encouraging for when he's off the ballot. I'm gonna go do the next district. I'm just gonna go over here in Illinois. I kind of don't like it because like click over here. I'm gonna do that. I don't want me to move. Illinois 17th. Sherry Bustos won by 4%. I mean like it's not nothing. It's not like an insanely large margin of victory, but it's not nothing, which is why I think that this seat will still be blue after 2022. However, it was one of the more competitive seats, which is why it should be on the GOP's radar. I mean, like, if it was only a 4% margin of victory, and if they can run somebody with lots and lots of rural appeal, and I guess some urban appeal, like Rockford and a lot of these more urban areas, but someone with the rural appeal to really really do well in these rural areas, who's not horrible in the suburbs, we could likely see the seat flip. I mean, like, I don't think it will. I think it'll still probably be a Democratic seat, but I think that this seat could end up being very competitive. Now, for the GOP's or for the Democrats' next seat, if it'll let me come out over here in Michigan, the third congressional district. Looking at this, Peter Meyer. I'm not certain names. I don't know lots of representatives. I know like 30 or something, which is a lot less than senators I know, or yes, less than the senators I know and less than the governors I know. But whatever. Over here, he only won by 6%. It's not nothing. Yes, it's a pretty big margin of victory. But I mean, like it with Trump's down ballot. So Michigan is a a pretty liberal state. But I think that Trump was an exceptional candidate in a state like Michigan. Most Republicans can't win Michigan. I mean, like the state has two Democratic senators, a Democratic governor, and Trump is the only Republican to win it in, gosh, I don't, since maybe H.W. Bush. So he was an incredibly strong candidate for the state. His down ballot support likely would have helped. I mean, like Trump really did well in rural areas. If the GOP doesn't, or if the Democrats run a good candidate in rural areas, who also has support in Grand Rapids and in its suburbs, we could see this seat flip. I do think we'll still be a Republican seat. I don't see the Democrats running a candidate with all that appeal, but it could happen. For the I'm gonna do two seats right now. Two more seats, by the way, in Michigan, in the ninth or the 8th district, and the 11th district. So I think the 11th, right? Yeah, all right. In the 8th district, looking at this, the Democrats only won here by 3.6%. I mean, like, it's a fairly it's kind of, if I can Google this, it's close to Detroit. Detroit is a working class city, and I mean, like, if it's also close to Flint, but if they can do well in the rural areas and do well in this kind of suburban Detroit, I don't even know if that's necessarily a suburb, but in this Detroit general area, I think that we could likely see it become a competitive seat, or more competitive than it already was. I don't think that the seat will flip. I still think it'll be a Democratic seat. A lot of these seats I don't think will flip. I think there will be very, very minimal flips. I think that the House will be very similar afterwards. We may see a new speaker, but I do think that it'll likely be pretty similar to the House makeup. And in the 11th district, I mean, this is another close district, only 2.4% margin of victory for Haley Stevens. So looking at this, I mean, this is more close to Detroit, I guess. And they would need to do well in this Detroit area, the GOP. I don't really see many Republicans that can, but they were narrow margins of victory for the Democrats, which is why they should be targeting it. So yeah, I just wanted to go double check those were the right districts. If not, honestly, I mean, like, if it wasn't, that definitely should be it. So I'm gonna do the last four real quick. Those I never remember. I think they're like the 27th and 28th districts in Florida. 26th and 27th. Okay, that was close. So looking at this, I mean, like, this district, the 26th, is less of a Miami district, but it's got parts of Monroe County and parts of Miami-Dade. I would assume it's entirely built up of Monroe County and Miami-Dade. And I think that, I mean, like, the Democrats, this is an area that should be targeted. They did abysmally in Miami, in the Miami area, in 2020. And Trump had a lot of down ballot support. I mean, like, he did very, very well in this area, and his down ballot strength could have propelled Carlos Jimenez to the victory here. I mean, like, without Trump on the ballot and with a strong candidate in this area, we could see this seat flip blue. Same thing in the 27th district. Trump's down ballot support, he had a lot of down ballot support. He had a lot of he helped congressional candidates down ballot. Without Trump on the ballot and without Biden as well, which that could help the Democrats. Without Trump's immense support, or without Trump's help down ballot, and without his immense support in Miami, we could see this seat also flip blue. I mean, I think at least flipped blue in like 2018, and then they flipped red in 2020. So I mean, these seats, I think we could easily see flip blue again if the Democrats run the right candidates. Now, for I'm just gonna I think I remember them. Virginia seventh. I mean, like this, I don't see Spanberger losing. But I mean, like it could happen. Virginia, it's a leftward shifting state. But if the GOP run a candidate who, and this is highly unlikely, somebody who has suburban appeal to this Richmond area, yet also has rural appeal throughout a lot of the rest of Virginia. If they run a candidate like that, we could see this seat flip because I mean, like it was a narrow margin of victory for Spanberger, and if they have someone with suburban appeal on Richmond, and then rural appeal throughout the rest of the district, we could see it flip blue, and then the final district, I don't know if it's the seventh district in New Jersey. Yeah, it's the seventh. I mean, like looking at this, it's kind of close to Philly or Pennsylvania. By the way, this first district in Pennsylvania is incredibly strange. It's almost entirely, I think, Bucks County, which was blue on the presidential level, but then red on the House. It's kind of weird. But regardless, actually, it's kind of nice to see what that is all about. Okay, interesting. Um, but looking at this, I mean, like it was a narrow margin of victory for the Democrats, 1.2%. And this is kind of like a Newark suburban area. They would need to run a candidate, the GOP. We need to run a candidate who has a suburban appeal around Newark, yet more rural appeal over here. Once again, that's how the GOP needs to win a lot of these seats with candidates with rural yet suburban appeal. Which is why I don't see it happening. And which is why it's incredibly unlikely. I just realized I forgot to do when it's 14th. I mean, like I don't see them not having the appeal. And I guess this is kind of parts of it can be like Kenosha suburbs. I see Chicago. Not really. I don't. I mean, like, Chicago's losing population and it's shifting the state to the right, but I don't see it being enough. I still see the district being blue, but it was a narrow margin of victory. And if they do well enough in the Chicago area, we could see it flip. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like below. Stay tuned for my next video tomorrow. I need like an hour or so free to be able to do that reaction video. So I'm still trying to get the time. But I'll try to have it out eventually. So yeah, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.